Hey everyone, Noir here. Let's get into today's Reddit story. I found out my husband was cheating on me with my sister. I divorced him, cut my entire family out of my life, and never looked back. Years later, everything changed. My husband, Ethan, is 32, and we had been married for 6 years. I always believed we had a strong relationship. Like every couple, we had our arguments, but we always worked through them and came out stronger. I truly thought we had a happy marriage. That all changed about 8 months ago. My younger sister, Chloe, who is 28, moved back to our hometown after living in Florida since she was 18. Her longtime boyfriend had broken up with her, moved to another city, and left her with nothing. I never learned the full story behind their breakup. When she came home, Chloe claimed he had been cheating on her with other men. I did not know him well, but the story sounded hard to believe. I had only met him 3 times because Chloe usually came home only for Christmas and stayed just 3 or 4 days. During their 5-year relationship, he came with her twice. The 3rd time I met him was when Ethan and I visited them for a day while we were on vacation 3 years earlier. He never seemed like someone living a secret double life or the type to abandon Chloe with nothing. I even tried contacting him once, but I realized he had blocked me. After that, I let it go. Chloe moved back in with our parents, Victoria, who is 55, and Michael, who is 56. During her first month home, she had trouble finding a job. I suggested Ethan might be able to help since he was in a management position at his company. He pulled some strings, and she was hired into his department, which happened to be in her field. For some background, Chloe and I were never close. She has always been the favorite child, especially in my mom's eyes. My dad never stood up to her, so things always went Chloe's way. The favoritism was not obvious to everyone, but I noticed it growing up. When we both turned 16, I got an 8-year-old Dodge Neon, while Chloe got a 2-year-old Mitsubishi Eclipse. My parents spent thousands on her dance lessons, costumes, competitions, and travel without complaining. Meanwhile, if I asked for $50 to attend a volleyball or basketball camp at the local college, they acted like I was asking for something outrageous. The biggest difference came when I was 17. I got home 15 minutes past curfew after losing track of time with my boyfriend, and my parents took my car away for a month. The next year, Chloe came home 2 hours late smelling like marijuana, and all she got was a stern lecture. I was not upset when she left for college and decided to stay in Florida. After moving back, though, she started spending more and more time at Ethan's and my house. At first, I thought she was trying to build a better relationship with me. Then I noticed how close she and Ethan were becoming. They could talk for hours about almost anything. They developed inside jokes, and whenever I asked what they were talking about, they would just smile and say it was something work-related. When I brought it up to Ethan, he told me they simply had a lot in common and were working on several projects together. The first real warning sign came about a month later. I would get home from work and find Chloe already at our house. Ethan worked from 8 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon, while my shift was from 10 until 7, so it happened pretty often. Whenever I asked why she was there, they always gave me the same answer. We just had some work to finish. About 2 months ago, something happened that made me question my own sanity. Every morning before leaving for work, I make our bed exactly the same way. I always leave the pillowcases with the openings facing the outside edge of the bed. That day, Chloe had been over again. We ate dinner together, and afterward she went back to our parents' house. When Ethan and I got into bed that night, I noticed 2 pillows had been turned around. The openings of the pillowcases were facing the middle of the bed instead. I asked Ethan if he had been in bed earlier that day. He looked surprised for a second before saying, "No. Why?" I told him the bed was different from how I had left it that morning. He insisted I must have remembered wrong because nobody had been in the bed. Later, I secretly checked both his phone and his laptop, but found nothing. Then I realized they already spent 8 hours together at work every day and usually saw each other afterward, too. If something was going on, they would not need to text each other. Even without any proof, I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. I honestly started wondering if I was losing my mind. About 2 weeks later, my parents invited Ethan and me over for dinner. Everything seemed normal until I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Ethan was walking past Chloe when she casually reached out and lightly grabbed his arm. He stopped, turned toward her, and she quietly whispered something in his ear. Then they leaned in until their foreheads touched. It lasted only a second before Ethan quickly pulled away and kept walking. Chloe looked right at me, smiled, and calmly went back to what she had been doing. I was not stupid. I knew there were more than enough warning signs. The problem was that I did not want to believe what they were pointing to. I had been in love with Ethan ever since I was 21 years old, and I could not bring myself to accept that he would betray me with my own sister. I planned a weekend trip to the city for the two of us. My intention was to ask him directly about everything while we were away. More than anything, I hoped I was wrong. I was not. Our weekend started off surprisingly well. On Friday night, we had drinks, danced together, and even spent the night being intimate. The next morning, we had more plans, and for a moment, I almost convinced myself not to bring it up. I kept thinking there was no way he could be cheating on me with Chloe while acting so loving toward me. I could not have been more wrong. Before we left the hotel that Saturday morning, I looked him in the eye and asked him one simple question. "Are you having an affair with my sister?" His eyes filled with tears, and after a long pause, he admitted it. He said yes. In that moment, it felt like my whole world collapsed. I asked him why. He apologized over and over, saying he never intended for it to happen. According to him, they had just connected so well at work. One thing led to another, they kissed, and eventually it became a full affair. Then I asked the question I was almost afraid to hear the answer to. I asked if they had been sleeping together in our bed before I got home from work. He could not even look at me. He simply lowered his head without saying a word. That was all the answer I needed. I grabbed my purse, walked out, and drove home by myself. Ethan took an Uber back a few hours later with the rest of my things. He tried to apologize again, but I could not even look at him through my tears. He packed a bag and left to stay at a hotel. The next day, I went to my parents and told them everything. To my surprise, they already knew. They apologized for what had happened and told me Chloe had left the previous night and probably would not be back for a few days. I had no doubt she was staying with Ethan. That was 3 months ago. Our divorce is almost finalized. Ethan rented an apartment almost immediately, and Chloe moved in with him. The only time I communicate with him now is when it relates to the divorce. At first, he told me I could keep both the house and our savings. Looking back, I think that was his guilt talking. A few days later, he changed his mind and insisted we would have to split the house after all. I am convinced Chloe talked him into it. Fortunately, I had already transferred every dollar from our savings into a separate account, so there was nothing left to argue over. Just like that, 9 years of my life were gone. The sad part is that Ethan has no idea what he has signed up for. Chloe is incredibly narcissistic, and sooner or later she will throw him away just like she does everyone else. She has been unbelievably cruel throughout this entire situation. Only a few days after I found out about the affair, she tagged me in a Facebook post. It was a selfie of the two of them, with Ethan kissing her on the cheek from behind. The caption simply said, "Feeling loved." I felt sick. I logged out of Facebook immediately and deleted the app from my phone. About an hour later, she sent me a text. She wrote, "Sorry, sis. I didn't mean to tag you. No hard feelings. I hope we can still be close. You'll find your soulmate someday, too." I blocked her right away. Then I blocked her everywhere else I could think of. My parents have not been much better. At first, they acted sympathetic, but that did not last long. When I told them I was cutting Ethan and Chloe out of my life for good, my mother looked at me and said, "I am sorry this happened. It should not have happened this way, but your sister deserves to be happy too. You will meet someone else, and eventually we can put all of this behind us." I was furious. I showed her the Facebook post and the text message Chloe had sent me. My mother's only response was, "Well, you shouldn't be on social media anyway." My father barely said anything through the entire conversation. He mostly sat there in silence. Finally, I asked him what he thought. He simply replied, "I agree with your mother," and walked out of the room. That was enough for me. I decided to cut them out of my life too. The house will be sold soon, and I am moving to another state. I have not told anyone in my family where I am going or when I plan to leave, and I have no intention of telling them. I am done with every single one of them. As far as I am concerned, they can all live with the choices they made. I honestly wish them nothing but the worst. Hi, everyone. I know it has been about 4 years since my last update, but something major happened, so I figured it was finally time to come back and tell you all about it. First, I want to give a quick update on my own life. I am engaged now. It took me a long time to reach this point. After everything that happened with Ethan, Chloe, and my parents, I spent a lot of time in therapy before I felt ready to trust anyone again. When I first moved to Minnesota, I tried dating almost immediately. I went on one date that seemed decent at first, but it did not take long for the guy to show me what an unbearable jerk he really was. After that experience, I convinced myself I was done with men forever. That was when I realized I needed help processing everything. Between my husband's betrayal, my sister's actions, and my parents choosing her over me, I was carrying around a lot of pain. I spent about a year in therapy working through it all. Eventually, I met Nathan, who is 37. Yes, he has the same first name as my dad, which still makes me laugh. Nathan is amazing. He is a chef, and he owns a successful restaurant and bar with his fraternal twin brother, Lucas. Their business is doing really well, and for the first time in years, I am genuinely excited about my future. Now that you know how I am doing, let me tell you about the unbelievable nerve my family had. About 9 months after I moved away, I was still completely no contact with all of them. None of them knew where I lived. The only people who had my new address were a few close friends and a couple of cousins I trusted. One day, I came home to my apartment and found a wedding invitation waiting in my mailbox. It was an invitation to Ethan and Chloe's wedding. Inside was a picture of the two of them hugging each other in a sunflower field, which honestly made me sick to look at. There was also a letter from my parents. The message was basically that I needed to forgive everyone and move on. They admitted things had not worked out the way anyone wanted, but they reminded me that we were family, and that families were supposed to work through their problems. Then came the part that completely stunned me. They said Chloe wanted me to be one of her bridesmaids, just like she had been one of mine. I honestly could not believe what I was reading. That letter brought back every painful memory I had spent months trying to heal from. My therapist definitely saw a lot more of me after that. Looking back now, I can laugh at how ridiculous it was. At the time, though, it hurt. I never responded to any of it. The only thing I did was figure out which member of my extended family had given my address to my parents and cut that person out of my life, too. That brings me to what happened last week. Out of nowhere, Ethan showed up at my apartment. Nathan and I are not living together yet, although that will be changing soon. What surprised me was how good Ethan looked. It honestly seemed like he had gone out of his way to look his best before coming over. I opened the door and immediately asked, "What do you want?" He said, "I just want to talk. I am so sorry for everything I did. Chloe and I are getting divorced. I found out she was cheating on me throughout our marriage. I know you are not going to take me back, but I think we should talk and get some closure." I just stared at him. It felt like he had completely lost touch with reality. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "No, you do not get closure from me. You made your own choices, and now you have to live with them. Did you honestly think your precious golden girl, who has had more visitors than a Holiday Inn, was suddenly going to become faithful just because you married her? You are even dumber than I gave you credit for. I do not forgive you. I do not want anything from you. My life is better without you, and it always will be. You can go to hell." With that, I turned around, went back inside my apartment, and locked the door. Right away, I called my landlady. She is the sweetest older woman, and after living there for 4 years, we have become pretty close. She also knows everything that happened with my previous marriage. Ethan stayed outside my apartment, just standing in the hallway. A few minutes later, my landlady's 2 nephews, who helped take care of the property, showed up and told Ethan he was not welcome there. They informed him that he had been banned from the property and that if he ever came back, the police would be called and he would be charged with trespassing. I really hoped that would be the end of the whole thing. Unfortunately, it was not. These days, I work a regular 9-to-5 schedule. Because of that, I spend a lot of my evenings at Nathan's restaurant whenever he is managing. I mostly sit back, enjoy a meal or a drink, and spend whatever little free time he has with him without getting in the way of his work. Over the years, I have become close friends with many of the employees. A lot of them are relatives of Nathan and Lucas, and being around all of them has shown me what a real family feels like. It is the kind of loving, supportive family I always wished I had growing up. The very next night, I was at the restaurant when Ethan walked in. Without even asking, he came over and sat down at my table. It was a quiet Tuesday, so Nathan noticed him immediately and came over. He recognized Ethan from the pictures I had shown him before. Ethan reached out to shake Nathan's hand. Nathan looked at it for a second, ignored it, and asked me, "Do you want me to throw him out?" I said, "Not yet. I have a couple of questions first." Ethan suddenly looked hopeful, almost like he thought this was his chance to fix everything. The guy was completely delusional. I asked him what had happened between him and Chloe. Honestly, I was just curious. Ethan told us that Chloe had been cheating on him with at least 2 married men. I guess some people never change. He said the affairs started about 2 years into their marriage. "It was a really hard time for me," he said. I could not help rolling my eyes. I interrupted him and asked, "You are not that stupid, are you? Did you at least protect yourself this time, or did she end up taking half of everything you owned?" Ethan actually looked proud of himself. He said, "I stayed with her for almost another year so I could quietly build up my own savings and sell off some of my assets. By the time we divorced, she only got a small fraction of what she would have received otherwise." I asked, "So what happened to her after that?" He answered, "She had to move back in with your parents." I smiled and simply said, "Perfect. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. Thanks. You can leave now." Nathan immediately stepped forward. "You heard her. Get out of my restaurant." Ethan tried to protest. "But I wanted to—" I cut him off before he could finish. "No forgiveness. No closure. I only wanted to know that my loser sister ended up back at my parents' house. Now get out." Nathan pointed toward the door. Ethan looked around and noticed the bartender along with 2 servers staring at him. Realizing nobody was on his side, he lowered his head and started walking out. As he reached the door, Nathan called after him. "And if you ever come back—" Ethan interrupted him before he could finish. Yeah, I know. The police. Trespassing." Then he left. After he was gone, nearly everyone working that night stopped by to check on me. It was sweet, even if it was a little embarrassing. Later that evening, my future in-laws called. They insisted I stay with Nathan for the next couple of days just to be safe. It honestly meant a lot to me. I had never experienced a family that cared enough to protect me the way they did. Thankfully, I never heard from Ethan again, and I hope it stays that way. Update hi, everyone. I honestly did not expect to be back again, but I have another update. First, a little about me. I am now 41 years old and the mother of 2 boys. One is 6 years old, and the other is 2. Nathan and I are doing great. These days, I work part-time as the office manager for our restaurants. A few years ago, one of Nathan's cousins became a business partner, and together we opened a second location. It has definitely meant a lot more work, but having 3 owners actively involved has allowed each of them to have at least some personal time while keeping both restaurants running successfully. I am pretty sure our oldest son was conceived when I stayed with Nathan after his parents insisted I should following everything that happened with Ethan. His parents still joke that they always wanted grandchildren, and that convincing me to stay over was part of their master plan all along. Now, for the real update. After Ethan tracked me down the last time, I assumed it was only a matter of time before my parents or Chloe tried to find me too. It did not happen right away. As time passed, I relaxed a little. I had a strong support system around me, so I eventually rejoined social media. I remained completely no contact with most of my family, including many relatives, but I also knew that if they truly wanted to find me, they probably could. Not long after our first son was born, I received my first message. It was from my mother. She offered what sounded like a half-hearted apology, talked about forgiveness, and then asked about her grandson. At first, I planned to block her without responding, but seeing her refer to my son as her grandson really bothered me. So I replied, "You do not have any grandchildren. I am not your daughter anymore, which means my children are nothing to you. If you want grandchildren, maybe you should encourage Chloe to go do what she does best." After sending that message, I blocked her. She created several new accounts over the following months to keep trying to contact me, but every request and every message went straight into the trash without a response. The latest drama started when I was suddenly flooded with friend requests, messages, and emails from my parents. I read a few of them. They were full of stories about how much they regretted missing out on their grandsons' lives and how badly they wanted to make things right. I did not care. I had no intention of letting them back into my life. Then something even more surprising happened. Chloe started reaching out too. She did not say much in her messages. She just kept telling me she desperately wanted to talk. After about 3 weeks of constant messages, I finally agreed to a Zoom call. It would only be me. My kids would not be involved. As soon as the call started, they immediately asked to see my boys. I refused. I told them my children already had 3 grandparents, Nathan's mom, Nathan's dad, and his grandmother. That was all they needed. Pretty quickly, I realized this conversation was really about something else. Chloe looked awful. She seemed pale and exhausted. My parents also looked much older than I remembered, and they both seemed worn out. They started apologizing. My parents apologized for everything that had happened, and even Chloe admitted she was wrong. She said she regretted what she had done and wished she could have her sister back. I almost laughed. Then my mom took over with another speech about family sticking together and always being there for each other. When she finished, I simply looked at them and said, "Is that it? If you're done, I'm leaving." The 3 of them quickly told me to wait. That was when the real reason for the call finally came out. Apparently, Chloe had been dealing with serious health problems for the last couple of years. Her kidneys were failing, and she needed a transplant. That was why they had been trying so hard to contact me. Since close relatives are often the best match, they wanted me to get tested. I looked at them and asked, "So this is why you called me? You want me to save her? Stealing my husband wasn't enough? Now she wants one of my kidneys too?" My mother immediately snapped. "Stop acting like this. That all happened years ago." Then she started crying. "I know you hate us, but she's going to die if she doesn't get a transplant soon. Is that really what you want? I understand she hurt you more than anyone ever could. But please, just this once. Can you put it behind you?" I stayed quiet. I wanted to see what else they would say. Finally, my dad spoke up. "Look, we're sorry for everything, but we've got a lot going on right now. Between Chloe's medical bills and the fact that she can't work, things have gotten really bad. Your mother and I aren't getting any younger, and we've got our own health problems too. We need you to come back to Missouri to see if you're a match." He paused before adding, "And honestly, we could use some financial help too. Otherwise, we might lose the house. I looked at him and said, "So you need my kidney and my money?" "Don't put it like that," he answered. Then Chloe spoke again. "Please, just come home. I need my big sister. I don't want to die. Just come get tested. If you aren't a match, I promise we'll never contact you again." I told them I needed some time to think about everything and do a little research. I said I would give them my answer the following day. Then I ended the call. Afterward, I talked everything over with Nathan. He told me he would support whatever decision I made. Then he asked if the whole family should travel together or if he should at least come with me. I told him no. If I went, I was going alone. Later, I informed my former family that I would have all the testing done here in Minnesota. If the results showed I was a match, I would fly back to Missouri and we could discuss everything else after that. About a week later, my test results came back. Chloe and I were a perfect match. I agreed to return to my hometown of St. Charles. By the time I arrived, Chloe's condition had gotten worse, and she had already been admitted to the hospital. At least that kept everyone from trying to drag me to some family dinner because I had absolutely no interest in socializing with any of them. Even then, every chance they got, my parents kept asking whether I had decided to help them with their financial problems. I met with the transplant team, and they explained the entire procedure to me. After they finished, I told them I wanted to have the conversation with everyone present. We all went to Chloe's hospital room. My parents were already waiting there. The doctor began explaining Chloe's condition. Without a transplant, she probably had no more than 6 months to live. They carefully went over how the surgery would work and repeatedly emphasized that I was an exceptionally good match. They said the chances of finding another donor who matched as well as I did were extremely small, and that the sooner the transplant was scheduled, the better her chances would be. When they finished speaking, I walked over to Chloe's bed and took her hand. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Did you hear everything they just said? I am a perfect match. Realistically, I am probably the only person who can save your life." I paused for a moment before continuing. "And I am not going to do it. You are the most selfish, narcissistic, and hateful person I have ever known. The only reason I came here today was so you would know that the one person capable of saving you is also the person you betrayed more than anyone else. Now you have to live with the consequences of your own choices. You're going to die. You should start making peace with that." Chloe immediately broke down crying. My parents turned toward me, furious, and started yelling. The doctor and the nurse just stood there in complete disbelief, not knowing what to say. I looked at my parents and stopped them before they could continue. "Don't say another word to me. And don't ever ask me for anything again. The only money I would ever spend on either of you would be for your funerals, and only if you agreed to be cremated. Once I got your ashes, I would dump them into the filthiest public toilet I could find." After saying that, I turned around, walked out of the room, and never looked back. Now I am back where I belong. I am home. I am surrounded by the family who truly loves me, and I have never been happier.